Welcome back to the Tavern, World Builders! Oh my goodness, it's been so long since I've said that! We're back!
Yay!
This is episode 0, or session 0, of our season 3 season. Season 3 season. Yes, there we go. Our third season. Words will come back to me. So this is not an official, canon episode. We're just going to be explaining kind of what we're doing in season 3, some changes that we've made, and what to expect. We are always trying to make the podcast better, so we have meetings every year. We have kind of vision casting meetings to talk about what we want for the podcast, what's going well. And we thought that one thing that would really help with kind of the focus of the podcast and making sure that it is really useful for people in their own world building and writing is to kind of divide up our topics a little bit more. So rather than kind of mixing up our talk about what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, and then the actual world building stuff, is we're gonna separate that stuff out. So at the top of our episodes, we're going to have a segment called Happy Hour.
Very happy. Happy hour.
Happy hour, where your 3 fabulous hosts will kind of just have our general chat about what we liked and didn't like about the episode. So this is more of your
It's not actually an hour, it's just 5 minutes.
Yes,
It's not
happy
a
hour.
I just realized that might be
metaphorical.
confusing.
So I said episode, but of course, episode, movie, book, whatever we're talking about. So this is going to be the part where you just hang with us and we do our little book club review of just this was good, didn't like this, how was the acting, etc. And then we will have our tavern talk segment. So this is, of course, the meat of the podcast. This is where we're going to really get into the world building, break it down, talk about it, analyze it, all that good stuff. And then, of course, we will continue with our regular segments of Proprietor's Pick, where Allie will pick a book that we think you might like, if you liked whatever media we're talking about that week. And then last call at the end, where we isolate some questions and thoughts that you can take away to do your world building. So we're hoping that by having this slightly more structured discussion, that it'll just help keep everything focused and give you grounding and just it not all being mixed up when we're talking about it.
And so we don't go on and on about why we liked or disliked the show for many minutes. Just keep us on a timer. Yeah.
We're
a bit
all
of a self-edit.
certified nerds and yap machines, if you let us. So we're trying to rein that back a little bit.
Yeah. We also, so we've talked about this a little bit. If you are on our Patreon, you will know already, but we are doing world building workshops as well. So this is going to be for our patrons, $5 and up. We're doing a world building workshop once a month, which is going to be an episode where we build something from a world. So for example, we might be building a fantasy creature or a magic system or a spaceship, and we kind of brainstorm together and build something step by step, which will hopefully both be entertaining as well as sort of help walking you through how to build these things. So if that sounds interesting to you.
They're so fun, you guys.
They're
and
so
I think
fun.
they're going to be really helpful for world builders to listen to because we give you a list of questions that you can ask yourself to build that element yourself. And our first episode was my pick, so obviously we did a magic system, and it was very, very fun. I think we built a really cool on using magical trinkets, so you should definitely go to our Patreon and listen to that. The first one is free, so you can go listen to it now, and then decide if you want to hear more, and then you can go on Patreon.
And I think the best case scenario is that you're raging against our decisions with your own decisions. Which you can then use.
Creative fire. Yeah.
With the addition of this new monthly podcast episode, we are going to be discontinuing our after hours podcast sessions. This is mostly just due to resources and timing. If you really loved After Hours and you want to have them back, do let us know. We do want to take feedback into account. And of course, if you join our Patreon, that does help us and support us in being able to make more episodes. So maybe in future, we could bring them back if there is a great outpouring of love for them. We are doing a little bit of a different thing this season as well in terms of focus. So we are still doing world building. However, we're going to be specifically looking at world building through the lens of genre, which is very interesting. And this is actually Allie's brainchild. So Allie, would you like to talk to us a little bit about what the heck is genre and why would we want to talk about it?
So you may have noticed that publishers like putting books into categories.
Labels!
And one of those categories is genre. And as an author, it's tempting to argue, but my book is for everyone. However, our marketing expert, Christiana, will probably affirm this, that it's actually more difficult to sell something to everyone than it is to sell it to a target audience.
Infinitely more difficult.
So I like to think of categories as tools that help you get your book into the hands of the readers who are going to enjoy it the most. And so genre is one of those tools that will help you do that. Genre fiction itself is sort of an overarching category, and its sibling is literary fiction, which we don't really... This is a podcast for sci-fi and fantasy writers, which is genre fiction. Literary fiction tends to be more like character-driven, experimental, realistic. And
exists in the existing world for the most part.
Usually in the existing world. Whereas genre fiction tends to have specific structures and tropes and things. So like... mystery is also a genre that also takes place in this world, but it's a genre because it has specific tropes and structures and expectations from readers. And so in fantasy and sci-fi, you can break it down into all these little subgenres, which is actually what we're going to be talking about. So each episode will focus on a specific subgenre and then use something as an example for that. So our first episode is going to be about Umbrella Academy, and we're going to be talking about superhero fiction, for example. And then sort of like, what are superhero fiction tropes? What should you care about when you're writing superhero fiction? That kind of thing. And so I think this is a really fun umbrella. No pun intended.
Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
Maybe the pun was intended. To sort of look at world building through, and I hope it will be useful because when you're writing with the intention to be traditionally published, which is that is kind of what we're sort of expecting most of our listeners are shooting for.
And I just want to also say writing doesn't mean novels. It can mean writing for anything. Comics,
true.
Books, shows,
though we are
just writing in general.
We are generally targeting novel readers with our podcast because that's our expertise.
But if you're not a novel writer and you like the podcast, we are also very happy to have you.
We're happy to have you, all writers of all sorts. Yeah. I generally talk about novel writing because I'm a novel editor, so that's generally where my brain goes. If you are writing with the goal of traditional publishing, then genre is an important thing to keep in mind. And Emma and I kind of have differing opinions about when in the process you should be thinking about genre. Because I think it's helpful to think about it even before you start writing, just as a framework for what your novel is going to look like. But Emma also brings up some really good points.
Yeah, just it can be a common thing, especially if you're a younger, like in terms of like how long you've been writing. If you were a newer writer, maybe that's a better phrasing for it. It can be kind of daunting, and I've seen a lot of people get stuck so much on overthinking things at the beginning of like, oh, I have to plan out like exactly what genre I'm in, but what if my work doesn't fit this genre exactly, and then what will happen? And so caught up in those thoughts that they never actually write. And I just think to that degree, you don't have to be worried about it. You don't have to have all of your genre tropes figured out. You don't have to like really analyze it that much right at the beginning. So for me, it's just, I totally agree with Allie that it can be very helpful to like know what genre you're writing in before you start, just because it can make your writing a little bit easier. But if it's causing you like writer's paralysis or it's keeping you from actually doing the work, then don't worry about it. Like you can add that stuff back in later. You can discover your genre as you're writing if you're not sure what genre you're writing in. You can like, tidy it up in editing. So it's just, my thing is just like, you don't have to think about it to the point of it stops you from writing. It should be a benefit to you, not a thing that keeps you from doing it.
Yes. And from a marketing perspective, genre is something that you could kind of edit and fit things into afterwards, or it's something that you could be specifically writing for, right? You could see that there's a niche in the market. There's a gap that needs to be filled and you can fill it. That's fantastic. If you're a first-time writer, write the story you want to write and don't worry about it too much. You can look at the editing afterwards.
Most of our listeners are going to know that they write sci-fi or fantasy.
Yeah.
If they're listening
I would be surprised if they didn't, but you never know.
So. So hopefully we'll have some fun talking about, the subgenres within sci-fi and fantasy and sort of tropes and expectations. And I think it'll be a good time.
I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
So we can't wait to have you along for the ride with us this season. Our very first official episode of the season will be dropping next week. So keep your eyes peeled on those podcast platforms and get ready to talk some genre in world building. Until then, though, you gotta scram. Bye, everybody.
Get out of here.